Harmonica friends! One of the issues that the harmonicist is having to solve is because on the instrument we have the possibility to play the same notes in different positions and especially which one to use and when. In this tutorial we will find out the answer in this question is not as obvious as it may seem. Come on, let's see why. On the harmonica, we have the possibility to play the exact same note in different positions. Taking as our reference mode of the harmonica in C, we will have the note F in the whole 2 drawn, but the same F notes always in the whole 2, blowing with the register pressed. So F, and we have C note in 3 ways, blowing in the whole 4 and 5, and aspirating with the register pressed in the whole 4. Finally, the C sharp that we can perform by blowing in the whole 4 and in the whole 5 with the register pressed. It is not the case to explain here the distribution of the notes on the harmonica and the logic of these provisions. On my book you can find a diagram that illustrates this, and you will also find online direction on the subject. We have understood that the register, besides giving us the possibility to play all the notes of the chromatic scale, will further expand the choice of play similar notes but on different positions. But what position to use from time to time? Before answering to this question, first of all, we list the main possibilities about the use of the register. The first point is very clear. It means the ability to play all the notes of the instrument, making the chromatic harmonica by definition. And about this point, here is an example with this composition well known that requires an intensive use of the register. Well, but before moving on others point, I would like to invite you to use the musical symbol that I have adopted if you thought it useful. The symbols are useful to identify the notes when it is possible to perform it in different ways. We can use a symbol for the aspirate note, For example, the note F in the second hole, and the symbol for the same note if you do it by blowing with the register pressed in the same hole. In the case of C, since we have two C blown, for example all 4 and all 5, and 2 C sharp, we will have to indicate which hole, and we can write the number of the hole next to the note. But as we have another C natural aspirate in hole 4, if we want to play it by aspirating with the register pressed, it's enough to use only this symbol. Here you have the scheme with the 2 F notes and the 3 natural C and the 2 C sharp, and their related symbol to identify them. And now that we can know how to indicate and recognize the notes in the various positions, let's move on to the other aspects. Returning to the points listed, we now speak of the second point, executive simplifications with the use of the register. The examples are many, but for obvious reasons, let's limit us to an example that may be sufficient to express the meaning of what I would like to tell you. Let's take the following musical passage. We can see in the score the symbols of the drum and the blow notes and the number of all when necessary to distinguish the whole. By carrying out this passage without the use of the register, we will have to almost always alternate the breathing in and out. This won't mean a certain limitation of the speed, perhaps, but above all a considerable effort and the impossibility of linking to legato the notes to each other. The use of the register widens these possibilities and gives us the opportunity to facilitate this otherwise technically difficult passage, even under the respiratory aspect. In fact, with the register, it will become like this. The use of the register will make it more natural and fluid. The advantage that we can draw from this choice, once we have mastered the necessary familiarity and the coordination with the register, is enormous. But this will not be the only aspect to determine our executive choice. And so we go to the third point. Always with the use of the register, we will greatly increase our possibility of phrasing, being able to bind notes, legato notes, that otherwise would not be. The phrasing is the fundamental essence of the musical language, and each instrument has specific characteristics that identify a language that is its own, and so obviously also their harmonica. The phrasing is the result of many actions. In wind instrument there may be combination of factors, the emission of air, the action of the tongue, of the throat. Now we try to understand the role of the register for our convenience to know its use and its usefulness in a musical phrasing. Always simplifying, we try to formulate a statement that states that two notes can be performed effectively legato on condition that they are both aspirate or blown, located in the same hole by register or on the neighboring hole. This practically means that I try to play all the possible note legato from the hole 2, for example. Blown, hole 2 and 3, all 2 and 1. Accelerate all 2. Accelerate 2 and 3. Accelerate 2 and 1. In the book, you'll find a scheme that summarizes the various cases of legato and other non-legato notes. The fact of being able to legato or not the notes within a musical phrase will determine our phrasing. To be clearer, let's make an example, and to do this we use a phrase from a song that we all know, Libertango by Astor Piazzolla. This is the score without use of the register. This is the version without register. Again. Now we make some changes on the score with the register like this. And sound like this. Thanks to the register, we will be able to reproduce a musical phrasing that, in this case, we like best. So, with accent and staccato in this way, we will characterize our interpretation even more. A good musical use of the register will be fundamental to allow us to express our musical idea better and more easily. In practice, we can make our choice not only to facilitate our performance or our breathing, but also to perform the music with the phrasing we want, what we would like to express in our performance. So a choice that is no longer technical but musical. The use of the register can greatly facilitate the execution, but equally important will be its use in terms of music and expressive. Often students want to know when they have to use a position or another, and have a simple and unique rule that solves the problem. Instead, they have to choose what will allow them to opt for a more suitable solution in order to make a passage musically. How they imagine it or how it is written on the score, thus realizing both the technical and musical objectives. As I said earlier, the phrasing is an aspect intimately linked to the technical possibility of the instrument due to its structure, the arrangement of the notes. In the case of the harmonica, this is mainly due to the unique peculiarity of the instrument, conceived where you play by breathing. We will always have to take this into account and necessarily find compromises. Since the harmonica has the uniqueness of being the instrument with which we can perform notes in the true sense of the breath, we can deduce that it will be possible to breathe while we play. We will therefore have to pay attention to maintain a balance between blown notes and aspirated notes, to avoid a depth or accumulation of air and thus enter into breathlessness. Otherwise, we will risk being in hyper or hypoventilation. Therefore, alternating blow and aspirated note with a certain balance will allow us to avoid this situation. Where it is possible to choose the position aspirated or inhaled according to the need to fill or empty the lungs, thanks to the use of the register that widens our possibilities. Here to the example are countless, but one will be enough to understand what I would like to say. If we were to play this exercise by also performing the ritornello, we would find ourselves, regardless of the speed of execution in a hyperventilation condition, since all the notes are aspirated. To avoid this situation, we can use the register by playing the note F, blowing in order to discharge the lungs. In this way, we will have balanced our performance from a respiratory point of view, and we can also perform the exercise cyclically without getting into trouble. There are other tricks that allow the emptying or filling of our lungs, but I have depended this aspect in my treatise, also to not excessively weight these tutorials. The fifth point concerns trilli and acciaccature, etc. That the use of the register will allow us to perform extremely effectively. I conclude this brief digression on the use of the register, recalling the interesting effect that the use of the register medium. In practice, instead of pressing the register completely, we press it all halfway. In this position, the register will allow air, example in the whole one, to play C and C sharp at the same time. We can perform this maneuver on several holes, taking into account that the air dispersion accumulated will be noticeable, having to blow in several holes and the notes at the same time. It is a very interesting effect that creates cluster, and this is very effective in contemporary music. Well, for the register and this tutorial, that's all, folks. See you on next video. Ciao!